She smiled at my mother's funeral. She hugged me tight and whispered, "I'll always take care of you, sweetheart." 3 weeks later, my mother's wedding ring, her diamond earrings, and a gold necklace that had been in our family for 3 generations were gone. And the only person who had a key to that house was my aunt. If you think family always protects you, wait until you hear what happened in my house in a quiet town in Ohio. This is not a movie. This is not fiction. This is what happens when grief meets greed, and when the person you trust the most turns out to be the one stealing from you in the dark. Stay till the end, because the way this story ends will shock you more than the way it begins. Welcome back to the channel where we share real, raw, emotional stories about family, betrayal, and the truth that hides behind closed doors. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button because every week we bring you powerful stories from women across the United States who lived through heartbreak and came out stronger. Today's story is called "My Aunt Stole My Mother's Jewelry." It's a story about loss, trust, betrayal, and finally, justice. This story will make you question who you can really trust in your own family. So grab a cup of coffee, get comfortable, and let's begin. My name, for the sake of this story, is Emily. I grew up in a small town outside Columbus, Ohio, in a house that always smelled like fresh bread and lavender candles. My mother, Diane, was the kind of woman who lit up every room she walked into. She wasn't rich. She worked 2 jobs most of her life, as a school secretary during the day and doing alterations for a local tailor shop in the evenings. But there was one thing she was proud of, one thing she treasured more than anything else in the world: her jewelry box. It wasn't full of expensive designer pieces. It held things with history. Her wedding ring, which my father saved for 8 months to buy. A pair of diamond earrings that were a gift from my grandmother on her wedding day. And a gold necklace, passed down for 3 generations, engraved with the initials of every woman who had worn it before her. My mother used to say, "Emily, one day this will be yours." Not because it's expensive, but because it's us. It's our story. When my mother was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer 2 years ago, everything in our family changed. And that's when my Aunt Carol, my mother's younger sister, suddenly became very, very present in our lives. Growing up, Aunt Carol was not close to us. She lived 2 states away, called maybe twice a year, and showed up at Thanksgiving only when it was convenient for her. She had her own struggles, a difficult divorce, money problems, jobs that never seemed to last. My mother, being the kind soul she was, always defended her. "She's my sister, Emily. Family sticks together no matter what." But when the diagnosis came, Aunt Carol suddenly moved back into town. She said she wanted to help take care of her sister. At first, I was relieved. I was working full-time as a nurse, and taking care of my mother alone was becoming impossible. Having another adult in the house to help with meals, medication schedules, and doctor's appointments felt like a blessing. Looking back now, I realize it wasn't a blessing. It was an opportunity she had been waiting for. Aunt Carol moved into the guest room. She had access to everything: the house keys, the medicine cabinet, even my mother's bank statements, because she offered to help manage the bills during chemo treatments. My mother trusted her completely, and so did I. Looking back, there were signs. Small things I brushed off because I didn't want to believe the worst about my own family. One afternoon, I noticed my mother's antique silver hairbrush was missing from her vanity. When I asked Aunt Carol, she said, "Oh, I think I put it somewhere safe so it wouldn't get lost during all this chaos." I believed her. Another time, I found an empty velvet box in the bathroom trash can. When I asked my mother about it, she said Aunt Carol had borrowed a bracelet to get it cleaned at a jewelry shop downtown. I never saw that bracelet again. There was also a moment I still think about often. It was late at night, around 2 a.m., when I got up for a glass of water and saw a light on in my mother's room. My mother was asleep, sedated from her medication, and Aunt Carol was standing by the jewelry box, holding something up to the lamplight. When she noticed me, she quickly said, "I was just checking if this ring needed to be resized. Your mom's fingers have gotten thinner." At the time, it sounded reasonable. Cancer patients often lose weight, and rings do become loose. I said nothing. I trusted her. I wish, more than anything, that I had trusted my instincts instead. 10 months after her diagnosis, my mother passed away in our home, surrounded by family. It was the hardest day of my life. The funeral was small, quiet, full of people who loved her, co-workers, old friends, neighbors who had known her for 20 years. Aunt Carol cried the loudest at that funeral. She held my hand and said the words I mentioned at the beginning of the story. "I'll always take care of you, sweetheart." In the weeks after the funeral, I was drowning in grief. I couldn't even walk past my mother's bedroom without breaking down. Aunt Carol offered to help, organize my mother's belongings, saying it would be too painful for me to do it myself. Again, I said yes. Again, I trusted her. That was the biggest mistake of my life. About 3 weeks after the funeral, I finally found the strength to go through my mother's room myself. I wanted to hold her wedding ring. I wanted to feel close to her one more time. I opened the jewelry box that had sat on her dresser my entire childhood. It was empty. Not just missing a piece or two, completely empty. The velvet lining was still there, holding the shape of rings and necklaces that no longer existed. I stood there for almost 10 minutes, just staring, my mind refusing to accept what my eyes were seeing. I called Aunt Carol immediately, my voice shaking. She told me not to worry, that she had put everything in a safe place for safekeeping because she was worried about the house being unlocked during the funeral when so many people were coming in and out. It made sense. It was logical. I calmed down. But when I asked her to bring the jewelry back the next day, she didn't show up. When I called again, she said she was busy. Days turned into a week. Then 2 weeks. Every time I asked, there was a new excuse. I forgot it at a friend's house. I think I left it in my car in another state. I'll bring it next time I visit. That's when I knew. Deep in my heart, before I had any proof, I knew. I decided to do something I never thought I'd have to do to my own aunt. I drove to a local pawn shop near her apartment, when my cousin mentioned she had visited a few times. I brought a photo of my mother wearing the necklace at my cousin's wedding 2 years earlier. The shop owner looked at the photo, then went to a back room. He came back holding a small plastic bag. Inside was the necklace, my great-grandmother's necklace, the one passed down for 3 generations. He confirmed a woman matching my aunt's description had sold it, along with a pair of diamond earrings, for a fraction of what they were worth. I felt like the ground disappeared beneath me. This wasn't misunderstanding. This wasn't confusion during grief. This was theft. My aunt had stolen from my dying mother's memory, sold pieces of our family history for cash, likely to cover her own debts. I confronted her that same evening. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I simply placed the pawn shop receipt on her kitchen table and asked, why? She didn't deny it right away. She tried to explain that she was going through a hard time financially and planned to buy it all back eventually. She said my mother would have wanted her to have something to remember her by, as if that gave her the right to sell it for cash instead of keeping it. I told her the truth. My mother trusted her. I trusted her. And she chose to betray both of us during the darkest moment of our lives. I want to be honest with you. This part of the story wasn't easy. Reporting a family member to the police felt like a betrayal of its own. Extended family members told me to let it go because she's family and it's just jewelry. But it wasn't just jewelry. It was my mother's legacy. It was the last physical connection I had to her. I filed a police report with a pawn shop receipt as evidence. I also worked with a lawyer to send a formal letter demanding repayment for the value of the stolen items. It wasn't about revenge. It was about accountability. Aunt Carol was eventually required to pay restitution for the value of the missing jewelry. The relationship between us was permanently broken. She tried reaching out months later, asking for forgiveness, saying she made a mistake, and wanted to move forward as a family. I told her I forgive her, because holding on to anger poisons your own heart. But forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting, and it doesn't mean rebuilding trust that was so deeply broken. Some doors, once closed, are meant to stay closed. I managed to buy back the necklace from the pawn shop before anyone else could purchase it. It wasn't the same, knowing it had once left our family's hands, but at least it was home again. Looking back on everything, I've learned a few hard truths I want to share with you. First, grief makes us vulnerable, and unfortunately, some people know exactly how to take advantage of that vulnerability. even people who share our blood. Second, trust should be earned through actions over time, not given automatically because of a family title. Being someone's sister, aunt, or cousin doesn't guarantee loyalty. Third, protecting the memory of someone you love is not selfish. It's an act of love. Speaking up, even against family, doesn't make you a bad person. It makes you someone who values the truth over comfortable silence. If you're going through something similar, if someone in your life, even someone related to you, has betrayed your trust during a painful time, please know that you are not alone and you are not wrong for wanting justice. So, let's bring this story full circle. A grieving daughter trusted her aunt to help care for her dying mother. That trust was repaid with betrayal, as precious family heirlooms were secretly stolen and sold for cash. Through courage, evidence, and persistence, justice was found, and a piece of family history was brought back home. This story reminds us that real family isn't defined by blood. It's defined by loyalty, honesty, and love, especially when things get hard. If this story touched your heart, remember this. No matter how much someone hurts you, you always have the power to seek the truth and stand up for what's right. Grief is heavy enough without carrying betrayal too, so protect your peace, protect your memories, and never be afraid to demand justice for the people you love. If you enjoyed this story, please hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss another powerful, real-life story from our channel. Drop a comment below and let me know, would you have forgiven Aunt Carol, or would you have cut her off completely? I read every single comment. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next story.